share my screen.
Okay. Okay, so welcome. We'll just have to wait a couple of minutes for the attendees to join. That's okay with you?
That's okay.
That's all right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Global Conference for Diaspora Africa in Science. We've reached our final session. Thank you so much for being with us. So if you've been with us from the start of the day and you were there for Dr. Maria Alejandra Sierra's session, a very inspiring session from Guatemala. And we're revisiting Guatemala actually now with another very exciting session titled Engaging the Guatemala Scientific Diaspora, the Power of Networking and Shared Learning. And with us now are Ms. Sofia Matiregos and Ms. Nerida Limas. Ms. Sofia, Ms. Nerida, the floor is yours. You could start.
Thank you very much.
Thank
So
you.
I'm gonna share my screen, and I hope this time the internet won't kick me out. Okay, can you see my screen there?
Yes, we do.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. So hello, everyone. Good evening, good morning. My name is Sofia Mazariegos, and my colleague Nereida Ortiz, we're gonna talk. We represent the Organization for Women in Science in the Developing World in the Guatemala chapter. And we're going to talk about the recent study that we published on engaging the Guatemalan scientific diaspora, the power of networking and shared learning. So this study was conducted by 10 Guatemalan scientists, of whom only 2 are residing in Guatemala. I am one of those residing in Guatemala, but and they are spread all over the world. I think 3 are residing in Guatemala, I'm sorry. And I'll spread all over the world, like mostly in Europe, also in the United States. They have different backgrounds, social sciences, natural sciences, but the common denominator is that we were all interested in learning about the diaspora and connecting, and then trying to figure out how we can connect the work that we do outside with the development of Guatemala. So I'm not gonna talk too much about each of our backgrounds because that would take too long, but you can go and see our profiles at the OWSD Guatemalan chapter profile. So a little bit of background on Guatemala in case many people don't know. We're located in Central America, just below Mexico. We're about 16 million inhabitants. It's considered an upper middle income economy with a gross national income per capita of $4,603 US, according to the World Bank, although it faces many inequality. From 1960 to 1996, Guatemala suffered, as many other Latin American countries, went through a civil war. So it had a big wave of immigration towards the north, particularly Mexico and the United States. So a lot of scientists and high-skilled migrants went to exiled to the north. Some of them came back, some of them didn't. And then a second wave has come in the recent years due to other factors, such as poverty, security, lack of opportunities, lack of education opportunities, as I'm sure you might be seeing in the news. According to a recent study from 2019, they've estimated that nearly 30% of highly skilled Guatemalan migrants have gone particularly to the United States. However, this information is lacking. There aren't many studies on particularly the scientific and highly skilled professional and migrants diaspora. So that's why we decided to have begin that study and have a profile of this diaspora. The study that we did, and Nereida is going to talk a little bit more about how the methodology that we used. But just to give you an overview of how much information is out there of the diaspora and the scientific resources and professionals that Guatemala has. There are two data sets of, one is the OWSD, and the other one is called RedCTI, which maps the scientific, the scientists in Guatemala, not only the ones who are abroad, but also the ones that are registered in the country. From that, we can say that from all those data sets that we saw, as I said, Nereida is going to give you more details, but interestingly, 631 of those 631, that we mapped out, 78% are female, mainly because the database is from the LWSD. And of those, 30% approximately are residing abroad. And those are the ones who are registered. With these two databases. However, we don't know if there are many. Paper is just the beginning of mapping how this diaspora is. As we said, most of them are in the United States, also in Mexico, and then some of them go to Europe. We can find a little diaspora in Asia. Not many that we didn't find any person that has been registered as scientific diaspora in Africa. So that's also another interesting point that we could see in further studies. Most of them also have 65.8 hold doctorate degrees, those who are registered. 29.1% have master's degrees, and 5.1 have bachelor's degrees. So those are the ones who have registered as scientists. Also, we can see that most of them are within the natural sciences, engineering and technology, and social sciences. I don't know if you have any questions so far before we can move to Nereida's presentation. Okay, so next slide.
Thank you, Sophie. So let me present how we collected data. So we actually collected data from two groups of participants. First, the Guatemalan scientific community, and second, stakeholders with relevance to the Guatemalan scientific diaspora. To map the members of the Guatemalan scientific diaspora, we used two publicly available databases. As Sophie mentioned, one is from the International Network of Science, Technology, and Innovation of Guatemala, and the other one is from the Organization of Women in Science from the Developing World, specifically the Guatemalan chapter. 37 members of the GSD participated in this study. To choose our participants in this group, we use a selection criterion to guarantee a diversity of views and perspectives. We included participants who reported experience in building and participating in groups of scientists or networks in Guatemala, being in different career stages, being in both fields of social and natural sciences, and in different geographic locations. In the case of stakeholders, we included 6 different perspectives to ensure an integral approach. People in charge of science, technology, and innovation policy, such as the Guatemalan Secretariat of Science and Technology, called Senacit. People working in foreign policy, such as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and international partners such as the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, academia, meaning private and public universities, private sectors such as the industry chamber, and civil society such as the Institute for the Development of Higher Education. As for the methods for data collection, participants were offered 2 different options, considering their time availability: semi-structured interviews and focus group discussions. Both the focus groups and the semi-structured interviews were conducted through digital platforms such as WhatsApp, Google Meets, or Zoom. The focus groups averaged a time of 60 minutes. We conducted a total of 12 focus groups, 6 with the Guatemalan scientific diaspora and 6 with stakeholders. The semi-structured interviews averaged a time of 45 minutes. We conducted a total of 30 interviews, 19 interviews with the GSD and 11 interviews with stakeholders. We can go to the next slide. So to analyze the data, we divided our findings in 3 main stages: identification, connection, and engagement. The first stage, identification, involves the very existence of the GSD, the sense of belonging in the scientific community, while grasping the understanding of GSD from the key stakeholders. In this stage, it was critical to gain in-depth knowledge of the composition and characterization of the GSD. The second stage was connection, which reflects the results obtained from the conversations between the GSD and their engagement in Guatemalan activities related to conferences, research projects, and others, as well as understanding the efforts that stakeholders are doing in order to engage with the Guatemalan scientific diaspora. The third stage is engagement, in related to the policy and sustained actions through which the GSD can effectively exert positive and constructive influence back in Guatemala. So now that we know how we organized our data, in these interviews and focus groups, participants from the Guatemalan scientific diaspora identified both barriers and solutions to actively map, connect, and engage the Guatemalan scientific diaspora in national processes. Let me mention some of them. The Guatemalan scientific diaspora mentioned that one of the barriers is that there are not enough efforts to identify members of the GSD abroad. So they consider it is important to create an updated GSD database to later feed an AI identification model. They also pointed out that there is no digital profiling amongst some Guatemalan scientists. So they see the need of raising awareness of digital connectivity to allow traceability. In multiple occasions, the GSD said that the government institutions do not intentionally reach out to the Guatemalan scientific diaspora. so their contribution to public policies is extremely limited. They recognize that the GSD should be more proactive to approach the networks offered by government institutions and be part of them. They also propose collaborative work with local and highly credible organizations to generate scientifically based public policy proposals. Can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. The GSD also mentioned the lack of connecting strategy from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs between the Guatemalan scientific diaspora with their home country. They believe that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs should imitate the functioning structures of scholarship-based networks to identify and connect with the GSD. Some of these scholarship-based networks are the Chevening or Fulbright networks. The GSD also noted the lack of Guatemalan embassies in many of the countries where the Guatemalan scientists and professionals reside, or that embassies provide little assistance and engagement opportunities where they do exist. They propose that Guatemalan embassies should contact Guatemalans in neighboring countries who lack an embassy. They should also facilitate consular processes so that scientists continue their responsibilities abroad. You can refer to our paper to know more about the barriers and solutions proposed by the members of the Guatemalan scientific diaspora. And I will give the floor to my colleague, Sofia Mazariegos.
Thank you. So also in the interviews and focus groups, we also had sessions with the relevant stakeholders, and we divide them in different groups. First, with the science and technology, or like science and those in charge of science and technology policy. And what we wanted to identify from their perspectives was what they think is the role of this mapping study. So in the science and technology policymaking, I don't know if you can hear me because my internet, okay. Stakeholders, they identify the role as they should identify, map, and characterize the diaspora, connect and engage with the diaspora with research grants, opportunities, and collaborations with the local context, and promote networking with relevant actors, and also negotiate the national budget for science and technology research. The actions that they identified that they're currently undertaking are that there are a few links between the science and technology policy actors and the diaspora, and that the most prominent is Converciencia, which I think other sessions have been already discussed on this with Clancy. That is an event where they talk about science and they bring scientific Guatemalan experts to discuss some topic. Most of the stakeholders think that further actions could and should be taken as the diaspora reports feeling neglected and unattended by the science and technology stakeholders. Regarding the foreign policy stakeholders, we identified that the role that they should have is to issue and implement specific guidelines and policy measures to connect those skilled immigrants with their country of origin, and also to promote academic, cultural, and social exchanges among the scientific diaspora members in their country of destination. And that they could also have the diplomatic missions not only engage with consular and administrative services, but also to engage and include the Guatemalan scientific diaspora residing in those countries in cultural activities, promoting in universities with Guatemalan students, scholars, scientists living abroad. Regarding the international partners, they identified as they could support projects that address societal problems in Guatemala. And they also can connect and engage the diaspora with local efforts led by the global community through diplomatic means, technical and scientific exchanges, and that they can provide financial support for workshops, conferences, research, and investment. I'm sorry, I mixed the roles. And then the actions below is they can also promote, as Nerida said, the main identified are the Fulbright and the Shivning, and they can also support research studies and projects related to the diaspora. Regarding the higher education and research, the role is to channel knowledge, skills, and contacts for the alumni who have been relocated abroad and in their country of origin through the alma mater in Guatemala. So create those links and network. Also engage the diaspora with Guatemalan research centers, universities, and academia, and to promote mobility and other collaborations, including students, scholars, and researchers with the diaspora. The actions taken is that they engage return the diaspora in distance postgraduate teaching or research positions, not necessarily in person now that we have moved to more virtual activities, and to advocate for more funding research for research funding. Also, capacity building and reducing the knowledge capacity gaps between local and international institutions using the contributions of the diaspora. And finally, we have also relevant stakeholders, which is the science and technology industry and the productive sector. And just here, I'm just gonna make parenthesis saying that I didn't say it at the beginning, but Guatemala is particularly agricultural country, but it also has some beginnings of innovation and science. So in that note, the role should be to promote further efforts in research and development, engaging the diaspora in such activities, and linking also the diaspora with the local chambers of commerce, industry, agribusiness, construction, and private firms, and to participate in multi-stakeholder efforts to engage the diaspora. The actions taken are from private firms related to the diaspora. However, they have not been identified or mapped. And also there is an ongoing program which is scholarship-based or low interest rate loans for students to go and do their masters and PhDs abroad, called Guate Futuro, which is a example for this purpose. This is mainly financed by the private sector. The diaspora also indicated this connection with the industry in Guatemala, and the chambers also seem to work in isolation. Only it was identified that the technology system, and engage with the diaspora with wider sectors of the society and enhance their contributions to address societal problems. They can also advocate for policies aimed at using science, technology, innovation, and research to address social problems in Guatemala. And the diaspora indicated that the civil society frequently have acted in the absence of science and technology and foreign policy actions. However, they don't have the financial or infrastructure resources. And also it was identified that coordinated efforts are required as the diaspora have filled vacuums from the public institutions.
Thank you. So in our final considerations, we want to highlight that, to our knowledge, this study is the first to provide supportive evidence of the growing and existing community of scientists outside of Guatemala, namely the Guatemalan scientific diaspora. This study also highlights the importance of mapping, characterizing, and understanding the GSD to have a strong capacity building mechanism and networking between the GSD and local actors. This study also points out the roles that both the GSD and stakeholders should play to actively respond to contemporary science global demands and needs. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Nerida and Sophia. If our attendees have any questions, please share them in the chat or in the Q&A section.
Thank you, Aya, for your comment in the chat.
I don't know if anyone has more questions.
I think that's a good idea, Clancy, that we can follow any question or any comment on this topic in our social media. We
Yes.
appreciate very much your attention.
All right, that wraps it up. Thank you so much, Ms. Nerida and Ms. Sophia. A very thorough and elaborate presentation. Thank you so much. And to everybody here, we're getting ready for the closing session. We'd be very glad to have you all with us to celebrate the conclusion of the conference. And that will be in about 9 minutes. So thank you so much again, Ms. Nerida, Ms. Sophia, Dr. Krinzi, and goodbye.
Thank you for the opportunity and thank you for the space.
It's our honor.
Thank you. See you around. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.